Every mechanic knows that sometimes the only way to free a stubborn, rusted bolt is with a little bit of heat. But if you've ever used an oxy-acetylene torch, you know it's risky. You've got open flame, potential damage to nearby parts like melted bushings, and plenty of cleanup when you're done. That's where this tool comes in. It's called the Bolt Buster. It's a heat induction system that uses magnetic energy to heat the metal from the inside out. There's no flame, no sparks, and it's a whole lot safer in tight spaces. Today I'm going to show you exactly how it works. I want to put it head to head against a traditional torch so you can see the difference for yourself. This is a great option for you at home if you don't have access to an oxy-acetylene setup. I've been very fortunate to live in the Southwest United States for the last 30 years or so. But it wasn't always like that. I grew up on the East Coast where we had a lot of snow, a lot of road salt, salt air from the ocean, and we had plenty of rust. So I basically grew up in the auto shop having to use oxy-acetylene torches like this setup we've got here. Of course, we had the giant tanks because we used them on just about every car we had to work on. Not so much in my last 3 decades of work, but we still come across cars that have some rusted bolts, especially on the exhaust side. We get vehicles that come from out of state. So we still have a need for oxy-acetylene torches. Now, I want to say probably about 5 years ago, I was at the local SEMA show and I came across this tool that we're talking about today, the Bolt Buster. This is that heat induction tool. And I was really intrigued by it. Some of the reasons we mentioned here in the intro is that we don't have to worry about flames and damage to igniting fuel lines, melting fuel lines, things like that. This tool is very focused where you use it. So we have the opportunity to only heat up the nut or the bolt that we want to heat up without getting everything else in the surrounding area, without worrying about open flames. It's been a really great tool for us, and I can show you just some of the, we've put this thing through the ringer. It's had a lot of use and abuse on it. I probably need to just go ahead and order some more tips for it. We seem to kind of burn through these things over time, so these are kind of what I would consider consumables with this tool. But if you're working at home, this is an ideal situation if you don't want to store oxygen and acetylene on site. You don't want to have tanks and torches available to you. I find this is a really nice setup. Just plugs into a 110 outlet and it helps you get some of those rusted bolts free. So I want to do a little demo for you here and show you how it works. I'll show you how the torches work, and you can kind of see the difference for yourself if you're unfamiliar with using a torch or this tool. I'll give you a little exposure to both of them, but there's a time and place for either one, but this one will definitely get the job done for a large portion of the stuff that you're working on at home. So let's check it out. I'm underneath this car here, and I wanted to talk about maybe one of the examples where the heat induction tool is probably not the best tool for it. And we're working on an oxygen sensor under here. It's got a lot of rust in and around the sensor. If we want to get this sensor out without stripping it, we might need to use a little bit of heat. Now, we've got a wire attached to it, and this wire is not so conducive to using the heat induction tool. You could unplug it and possibly fish it through the loops on the heat induction tool, but this might be an example where you might want to use a torch. I'll demonstrate how that works now. So here's a good example. We're going to take, unfortunately my oxygen tank is almost empty here, but I want to just show you what we would normally do with oxy-acetylene. We can come up in here and we just try to heat the surrounding area because I want to expand the metal around the oxygen sensor, and really I don't want to heat up the oxygen sensor itself. So we're trying to free up the metal, but as we work with this takes quite a bit of time. So let me see how long we can spend here just kind of getting this thing hot. You can see it's starting to glow a little bit here. Now generally with the oxy-acetylene torch, we want to kind of get these things to the point where they glow a little bit orange or red, and try to work the heat around a little bit evenly around the sensor so we can break it loose. Because the torch has a finite tip on it, it doesn't allow us to heat more than one spot at a time, so we kind of have to constantly work our way around whatever it is we're trying to heat up. We want to distribute this heat as evenly as possible. Okay, so once we get this thing to the point where I feel like it's got a good glow to it, this is when I'll generally put my socket on, my ratchet on there, or my oxygen sensor socket, and try to break this loose. So you can see the temperature on there. That's what we're looking for. Okay, now you can see I've got a nice glow in there. This is a good opportunity for me to get in there while it's glowing and try to break this loose. Okay, and you can see how easily with some heat that something like this will come loose. Now this is not rusted nearly as bad as some other things out there, but just to give you a general indication of how the oxy-acetylene torch works and what we need to do to get some component heated up. Now you saw the length of the flame. I've got this small set of torches with the smallest flame I can possibly get out of this thing, really, and make it useful, and still have a few inches of flame on here. I could make it bigger if we wanted to, but just to try to heat the localized area without burning a hole through everything around this component. Now obviously I've selected this area here where there's not a lot of things in the way, but there's plenty of other examples. I'll show you one here in a second where you do have a lot of things in the way and it's hard to get this torch head up into where you need to free up some bolts. So you can see here, I've got the camera located at the flange to the rear exhaust manifold on this vehicle. And you can see how tight it is up here. If we had to stick the torches up in here, it makes it just a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more dangerous, some of the components that are closely fitted around it. Now it doesn't mean it can't be done, just not very convenient. So here's an example of how I might apply this bolt buster tool. I'll come in here and I can reach it easily without doing much of anything. And this is kind of how we would use this. We're going to sit it up on this bolt here, and then we only need to run this thing for about 10, 15, 20 seconds sometimes just to get this thing hot enough to break it free. And you can see how that would be a lot easier than trying to get the torch head up in this area to heat up this nut, or even the one on top of that as well. I can bend these tips a little bit so that I can get it to fit on here properly, and it really makes it a lot easier for me to use. All right, so I've selected this bolt up here. It's a little bit easier for us to film. I want to show you how this thing works. We're going to wrap these coils in here. We're going to wrap those so they fit fairly closely around the nut that you're trying to loosen, okay? Now you can see in here there's a lot of insulation that's been deteriorated on here. We've used the heck out of this tool, but I just want to show you basically how it works. All it's got is a button on here, and this button, we're just going to hold it down to generate the heat. You can feel the tool buzzing when you use it. We'll make sure our tips are tight here. And then you're just going to put this over the nut or whatever it is you're trying to loosen, and then just hold the button down. So as we go right now, I'm heating up this nut on here. Well, there you go. You can actually see some of the smoke starting to come off of this thing. You can see a little bit of grease and oil bubbling off of there. And I can definitely smell it right now. So then you're going to get that thing warmed up for maybe 10 or 15 seconds, usually all it takes. And then we'll pull that out of the way. And you can see the heat being generated in this nut here. And we'll just go ahead and loosen it up. Okay? I probably need to put a wrench on the other side, but it's really that simple, guys. That's all you have to do with this tool. All right, so there's my brief demonstration of basically how torches work and how this induction tool works. I want to talk about the tips that come on here a little bit. Now, it comes with a variety of adapters for it. They all pretty much work the same. We've just got to get the two leads installed inside the end of the tool. So it has these little knobs on here that we can use to tighten down on the leads. You just want to make sure they're fastened tightly. And these are designed for you to use however you like. So generally what you want to do is you want to have at least a couple of loops around whatever it is you're using. Now we've used it all kinds of ways. You can see this one here. This is like a flexible thing that can really snake in just about anywhere. And we've used it as little as just a little loop and a knot on it, and it still works fine. So I can tell you just from a variety of uses, there's not really a wrong way to use this. We like to make sure we get at least 2 or 3 loops, like something like this, if something bigger that you're trying to heat up. But you can obviously do much less than that. Now here's another example of us getting creative on here, trying to heat up 2 bolts at once. So you can use it that way as well if you want to. It's really up to you how you use it. We have a lot of insulation that's burned off some of these adapters. Obviously these get hot, so you want to be extremely careful with them after you've used the tool. But they're still working. I think it's probably recommended that we replace these bits, and I'm sure we'll do that here shortly. But they still function even with some of the insulation that's burned off it. I think the idea behind this is you want to try to get those coils looped around so that they're tightly packed. This way the concentration of the heat is where you want it, but not really touching each other. So if you can kind of be careful with it, make sure the loops don't touch. As you know, in practical applications, we always have good intentions of using these exactly how the manufacturer wanted, and then in the real world, it doesn't quite go that well. You know, we get in an area where you're forcing the tool in a spot where maybe it's just not as easy to get to, so you end up bending these little loops a little bit. But still functioning, still working, and lots of great choices on here to get you access where you need to be. Keep in mind this tool is fairly large, also cumbersome, so your working area is really going to be this thing. And you can see this one we have bent to get access from here without having to go straight on it. So you have a lot of flexibility in these tools, literally, to use it the way you want to use it. If you've ever used oxy-acetylene torches, not only is the flame a problem wherever you are and then heating up more than what you really want to heat up, but the other problem I grab the torches so I can demonstrate for you guys what we want to do here, and I notice one of my tanks is almost empty. So this is a consistent problem, especially when you use small tanks like we do. We don't need the giant torches in our shops. We don't have that frequent of a use for it. But every time we go to use the torches here, because the tanks are so small and because when they get used, we use quite a bit of the gases up, that we find they're empty all the time. We have to get them refilled. So this is another solution where you're not constantly trying to refill your gases if you're using them a lot. Maybe you replace some tips here or there, but this thing will get the bulk of the work done for sure on most of the stuff you're working on. Now, if you're looking to cut something with the blowtorch portion of the torches, you're obviously not going to be able to do that with this. This is strictly for heating up bolts and things, okay? If you're looking to heat up a large exhaust flange, let's say, to separate some pieces, you might also still need some torches on there. So just really depends on what your uses are. I'm talking about strictly for loosening up seized or corroded or rusted bolts. This tool we find to be fantastic for that. I wanted to mention there was another adapter in the kit that comes with this bolt buster. This is just to heat up larger panels. So, and I was just talking a second ago about heating up an exhaust flange. This might be an idea where I have never actually tried this, so might be an idea where you could kind of work this around, a 2.5-inch pipe and try to heat it up gently around the outside to get your parts free. So I don't want you to think that this thing can't do some of the things that you might want it to do. So this particular tool, I told you I bought it from a SEMA show. It was some kind of promotion or special, but I think at the time it was somewhere around $500. I think I looked on Amazon. I think they're selling them for about $400 right now. I think it's pretty good value considering I've gotten many years of use out of this in the auto shop environment. So you can see the pieces are well worn and well used. This is not a tool that never gets used. We use it frequent enough. But I want to find for you also some viable options. I know when I was looking for this tool, there's a couple of other ones out there that do a similar function, not this name brand bolt buster, but will probably serve your purpose as well if you're looking for something in a value-oriented price range. So I'll go ahead and leave a couple of links in our description to those tools. If you think this is something you can use, you can check it out on our Amazon store as well. Now, I just wanted to say thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative. Please go ahead and share this video, this content. If you got some people you think would be interested in it, make sure you like and subscribe. As always, to our content, we appreciate your support. And leave some comments down below, anything about this tool or the torches or anything else you might want to know as well. We'd love to hear from you guys. We want to read your comments and give you some answers to your questions if you have anything. We'll see you in the next video.